Well, good morning, Eagle Heights Church. Christy and I had the privilege of being in Discovering this morning with, there's about 10 or 15 people down there, 10 to 12, 12 to 15, don't count, don't hold me to that, but they're potentially joining our church. God has been blessing us, and we are so thankful for how He's been blessing us, and I'm so thankful for you guys. One thing I'm going to challenge you to do over the next few weeks is take a moment during this craziness, because you guys know, we were out shopping yesterday, and the craziness has begun. The seasonal nonsense has begun in a lot of ways. But I don't want us to stop. I don't want us to miss the opportunity to stop and be thankful for what God has given us. Like, for example, I'll just give you one. I was sitting there, my newest grandbaby's down here. He's just putting on the weight. They've nicknamed him Chub Chub. I'm not crazy about that. My nickname as a little boy was Booger, and I got stuck with that. So don't you dare call me that either. You're not my Aunt Louise. If you're my Aunt Louise, you can call me that. Other than that, she's the only one who still calls me that. But we weren't even supposed to have kids. We were told by the doctor that our likelihood of having children was slim, if any. And within the first few years of marriage, we had two wonderful sons who were deeply loved and very proud of, and they have since brought 5 grandchildren. I just sat down with the Lord saying, Lord, thank you. Thank you for just what you've given us here. We have so much to be thankful for. I challenge you this week and through Thanksgiving to stop every day and think of something, how God's been blessed you and what you have to be thankful for. And I promise you, if you just stop and look, you'll see it. I'm thankful for you guys. I'm thankful to be here today. I'm thankful that we're almost through Revelation. We're in chapter 17 this morning. And we're going to continue on as we're wrapping up the book of Revelation. And if you look at the text, you notice the title is Coexist. Now, if you've driven around Oklahoma City at all, you've probably seen this bumper sticker, the Coexist bumper sticker on someone's car. Now, understand this originated out of early 2000s after we were fighting in Afghanistan. And they took a bunch of symbols, of religious symbols, and they connected them, and they created the word coexist. And it was there to promote, its intent was to promote understanding, acceptance, and it's the desire for all religious groups to coexist together in harmony and in peace and unity. Now, the idea sounds great, but the simplicity of the coexist message is actually lost in a lack of understanding concerning the complexity of that issue. And let me tell you why. All these religions seem to share similarities. If we look at them on the surface, they seem to all have same things in common, or similar things in common. But the truth is the foundational doctrines are not only completely different, they're actually in complete disagreement and contradictory to one another. Now that means something. Not all religions are true. That also means that today, right now, we are surrounded in a world full of false religion. And as believers, we cannot grow weary in focusing on the time in which we live and also in understanding the prophecies that we're studying. Because the reality of it is that during the tribulation, Satan is going to take false religion and he's going to use it to his advantage. Matter of fact, he is going to use it to unite people under his banner. He's going to deceive them into declaring the Antichrist as Messiah. And he's going to foolishly convince people and use them as fodder in his last war attempt to overthrow God. Matter of fact, we learned something about Satan. Satan's actually not against religion. Matter of fact, he's for it. The very first temptation in the garden was based in false religion. It wasn't about Eve falling and submitting before God. It was about Eve standing up and trusting in herself. See, Satan is the father of false religion. And we're stepping into the time period of Revelation chapter 17. Now, let me tell you where we are. Remember what happened. Last week was 16. We saw the bowl judgments. Now, that covers the last 3.5 years. Now, do you remember in the bowl judgments where Christ said, I'm coming like a thief, or will be like a thief in the night? It wasn't about his return, but like his return, when the bowls end, and we see where that is in number 6, where what happens? He said, it is done. His wrath is finished, or actually number 5, his wrath is finished. Christ said when that happens, judgment is going to be sudden, immediate, and severe. So in chapter 17 and 18, notice what's happening immediately. We're seeing the fall of Babylon. In chapter 17, we're seeing the fall of the one world religion. And in chapter 18, we're seeing the fall of the one world government. We're seeing God bringing it all down. Matter of fact, if we look at point 1 and verse 1, we begin to see something. We begin to see that Babylon is going to be compared to a harlot. One of the 7 angels who had 7 bowls came and said to me, come, I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute, harlot, who sits by many waters. Now, I want to go back to something. Remember, we opened this up in an earlier message, but we're going to complete this thought today that Babylon is the cradle and the grave of all false religions. I want you to see that more than anything else. Babylon is the cradle and the grave of all false religions. Now, when the Bible is using the term Babylon in Revelation, it is not specifically talking just about a city. It's not talking about the historicity of this situation. It's talking about the iniquity of Babylon. It's not focused on a location. It's focused on this entire concept of it ruling the world. And in this case, it's about how false religion is being used by the Antichrist. Now, we know that Babylon is a historical place. Matter of fact, one of the first places, or the very first place we see it is in Genesis 11, 1 through 4. Now, I want to read this, and I'm going to show you from this, we're going to see the birth of false religion right here. And we're going to see the foundational truths of all religion. Foundational lies, let's say that. Verse 1, now the whole world had one language and a common speech. As people move eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. Now, stop right there. This is after the flood. All of mankind has moved to this one location. I want you to think about that. The entirety of the earth is there. There's a man leading them named Nimrod. And they start to settle in the plain in Shinar. That is modern day Iraq. This is the birthplace of Babylon. This is pre-Babylon. And notice what they do. They said to each other, come let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly. They used brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. Then they said, come let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens so that we may make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered over the whole earth. Otherwise, we'll be scattered over the whole earth. Now, they formed to make this tower. They're going to make it to heaven. Now, that tower was the center and the beginning of idol worship and the basis of all false religion. False religion is, for lack of a better word, formalized right here. We see it in the garden, but it's formalized right here. Now, I want you to see 3 common elements that exist in all false religion. When I say false religion, we're going to identify it this morning. So go back to this text and notice the very first thing we see about a false religion. False religion always rejects God's promises. Always rejects God's promises. Notice how they built this tower. Come let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly. They use brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. Now notice something. They're not building like they normally build. You don't build this way. You use stone and use mortar, but they did not. They baked their bricks and they coated it all with tar. They sealed it all up. Why? Well, think about what just happened. The flood happened. Now, what did God say after the flood? He made a promise. I will never again destroy the earth with flood. He put the rainbow in the sky, showing us this is my promise and this is the sign of my promise. God has promised them of what he's going to do. But notice what they did. They didn't believe God. They didn't trust God. They don't acknowledge God's goodness, God's word. They're living as if God exists, but he's someone that cannot be trusted. So what did they do? They made the Tower of Babel waterproof. knowing they were going against God, knowing what God did before, and they didn't care. They're faithless. They're ignoring God's promises. Even though God said, I'm good, you can trust me, false religion always tells you you cannot trust God. You can only trust yourself. But then it says something else. Notice what else they did. They rebelled against God's commandment. Notice what they did. They moved eastward together. They had a common language. And notice at the very end, very last phrase, otherwise will be scattered over the face of the whole earth. God had commanded them to what? To disperse. He said, go out, multiply, create many nations. And they refused to obey God. What did they do? They gathered together. They reject God. They rebel against God's command. They reject His promise. They rebel against His command. They refuse to do what God says. False religion always does the same thing. Takes a little bit of the truth. God told them to go out. They're going out. But He told them to scatter. They congregated. He told them to bear many children. They didn't do it. They got together. They took a little bit of truth. They took a lot of lie. They bind it together, and they start obeying God on their own terms. False religion always rebels against God's commands. They reject His promises. They're faithless. They rebel against His commands. They refuse to obey. And then notice what else? They're refusing to accept God's grace. What do? They're building a tower that's going to reach to heaven so they can do what? Make a name for themselves. See, they refuse to accept God's grace. It's legalism. I'll get to heaven under my own work. I'll get to heaven under my own terms. I'll build my own tower. I'll rise. I'll make a name for myself. I will depend on no one else. See, this is what makes Christianity unique. In every false religion, you have to get to God. You realize that, don't you? It's through performance. It's through contribution. The religion tells you what you got to do to get to God, and you got to follow all these legalistic rules. Now, here's the problem with legalism. Legalism is always so insecure to the person because it's totally based on your performance and someone else's opinion of your performance. It always creates this insecurity of, have I done enough? What does everybody think about me? I have to appear to be perfect. But Christianity is just completely different. See, Christianity is real. That's why I love Christianity. You don't have to hide. You don't have to pretend. I can struggle. Why? I'm a sinner. I can't lift myself up. I can't change me. It's okay to look in the face of grace and say, I'm having a bad day. I'm a failure. I can't do this. I'm unable. I don't have the strength. I don't know what I'm doing. And fall before the Savior who has all those answers and say, I need your grace. It's when you come to Him saying, I'm not enough to save myself. I can't fix myself. I'm broken from sin. But in grace, our God doesn't demand us to get to Him. He comes to us. See, false religion always has these three, or at least two of these three elements. They always reject God's promise, they rebel against God's commands, and they refuse to accept God's grace. They live faithless, disobedient, legalistic lives, and they are empty and they are lost. Well, what does God do? We know what He does. He separates them. He sends them out, changes their language. And in that moment, they should have gone out and they could have built multiple cultures that worship the true God, but instead they don't. They make multiplicity of false gods and create just hundreds and thousands of false religions. So automatically, what do we see out of Babylon? Babylon began this false pursuit. It's constantly promoting the rejection of God. It's constantly promoting rebellion against His commands. It's constantly promoting legalism and refusal to follow Him. So in this situation, Babylon is not being referred to as a city, but a final, godless, humanistic, and nationalistic worldwide religious system. That's where it's heading. So all the false worship that's happening right now is going to culminate into one false religion. And Satan's going to use that to his advantage. So from the cradle back at Nimrod and the Tower of Babel to the grave of the last standing Babylon, we see false religion playing out fully in the history of mankind. But notice what it continues to say. Notice what we see as we go on. We also see something else. We see a harlot, or some of your Bibles will say prostitute, and the harlot becomes the mother of all false religions. The mother of all false religions. Now, notice how we see that. Notice when we talk about her, the harlot, we're talking about this world religious system, and it's coming out of Babylon, and it's being called a prostitute. And just like a prostitute, it's being compared to the actions of that prostitute. Now, notice the very first thing we learn about her. This false religion is there, and the harlot seduces or deceives the nations. Now, with her, the kings of the earth committed adultery, and the inhabitants of the earth were intoxicated with the wine of the nations, of her adulteries. Now, notice we see the scope of her influence. It's going to be the entire earth. All the kings of the earth, and then all the inhabitants of the earth. The scope of this woman's influence, this religion's influence, is worldwide. Every single solitary person in every single solitary country that's still remaining is going to be affected, touched, and impacted by this false religion, by this one world religious ideology. It's attacking every single one of them. And notice the depth of her immorality. It's going to come upon them as an intoxicating drink, just like a drunk man who's under the influence of alcohol. The world's going to be intoxicated and under the influence of this religion. And through that, she is going to seduce the entire world so that she can do the next thing, which is she's going to produce children. She produces children. Now notice where she's seated. She's seated up on what? A beast. You see her seated up on the beast. Now, look at verse 3 through 5. Then the angel carried me in the spirit into the wilderness. There I saw the harlot sitting on a scarlet beast. Now we know who the beast is. It's the Antichrist. So we see the Antichrist is using this one world religion to his advantage. Matter of fact, this one world religion, this false religion is going to unify the entire world under the rule of the Antichrist. And notice what's going to happen. We see how she produces her children. We see the beast, he's covered with blasphemous names. He has 7 heads, 10 horns. Verse 4, the woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and was glittering with gold, precious stones, and pearls. The dress is important because like every prostitute, this harlot is dressed to attract. But she's not inappropriately dressed. She's dressed in what? The robes of royalty, wealth, power. She's dripping with gold and jewels. She's coming over saying, look how wealthy you can be. Convert to following me and worship the Antichrist, and you can have power, authority, and wealth. She's automatically setting the hook to what man really wants. He wants power, he wants authority, he wants pleasure, and what else does he want? He wants wealth. She's setting that hook. But then she's got something in her hand. Notice what she's holding in verse 4. She held a golden cup in her hand filled with abominable things and the filth of her adulteries. Now stop right there. We need to understand what's in this cup. Pagan rituals that were done back then, their goal was to get their participants intoxicated, but not to the point of passing out. They would mix wine and stronger wines with all kinds of drugs, for lack of a better word. Now, the goal was not to get them to a point where they're passing out and unresponsive. No, it's to do something else. It's actually to get them to a point where their restraints are removed, their passions are excited, and they're left defenseless so they can come under someone else's power. They're suggestible. They're ready to obey. They're ready to listen. And all of a sudden, we see her here passing out this wine, this false religion, forcing people to drink it. And as it becomes, the intoxication sets in, they are now listening completely to this woman, to this religion. They're being trained in what this religion teaches. They're being promoted of what this religion wants. Well, we see what this religion wants. We see it clearly what this religion wants. We see that she is going to murder believers. She's going to murder believers. Now, if you notice here, she's called in verse 5, she's the great mother of prostitutes. She's called a mother. Now, as a mother, that means she's making disciples. These disciples are doing her bidding. What's her bidding? We see it very clearly in verse 6. The woman was drunk with the blood of God's holy people, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. And when I saw her, John says, I was greatly astonished. She's drunk on the blood. Her hands are covered in the blood of the saints. Do you realize in the last 3.5 years, we were going to look at forced conversion? False religion pushes forced conversion. Separate from family, separate from other people. It divides you from those you love. Divides you from truth. It divides you from hope. But in this case, it's going to be even a greater division. It's going to divide you from the true church. And the goal is this, to kill them. Under this woman's seductive and distracting influences, we're going to see the entire world that's under her influence turn on Christians and begin to shed their blood. Either believe or be martyred. Either follow and worship Antichrist or be beheaded. See, Christianity doesn't promote forced conversion. Matter of fact, Peter or Paul said something completely different. 2 Corinthians 5, we are here to persuade people to believe. We're to do everything we can to persuade them. But the choice is theirs, and if they choose not to believe, we walk away. But that won't be the case with this harlot. That not will be the case with this false religion. This false religion will kill everyone who doesn't believe. Now we see that Babylon is compared to a harlot. We see what's happening here, but you need to see why this is important. Because the beast will use the harlot to accomplish his purposes. She's riding on the back of the beast. We're seeing a connection here. We're seeing how the Antichrist is using this false religion to establish his earthly kingdom. He is going to do that the best he can. Now notice what he's going to do. He's going to deceive those who dwell upon the earth. Now something unique is happening here. At the end of verse 6, notice what John said. He goes, I was greatly astonished. Meaning, I was left wondering. So verses 1 through 6 is the vision. The rest of the chapter is the explanation of the vision. Being told what's going to take place. Being told what is happening. See, in Revelation 13, we see the arrival of the Antichrist. We see the arrival of the false prophet. But in chapter 17, we're not looking at the men themselves. We're looking at how their kingdoms or their areas of influence link together to accomplish the Antichrist's purpose. We see how the one world government and the one world religion, when they link together in the last 3.5 years, will lead this entire world to submit themselves to a dictator, where they willingly, without question, will submit themselves in obedience and loyalty to him and follow an anti-Christian church. So the last 3.5 years, what do we see? This explosion of false religion taking over, and we're seeing people willingly submitting themselves to this false Christ. Now, how is he going to deceive them? Well, verse 8, the beast which you saw once was, now is not, and yet will come up out of the abyss, go to its destruction. The inhabitants of the earth, whose names have not been written in the book of life from the creation of the world, will be astonished when they see the beast, because it once was, now is not, and yet will come. That is confusing. We read that and go, what is being said here? We sang a song similar to that, didn't we? About God being this way. Well, we know how he's going to deceive them. This is all reference to his false resurrection. Just as Christianity hinges on the true resurrection of Jesus, this false religion is going to hinge on the false resurrection of the Antichrist. He's going to use that event to deceive those who dwell upon the earth. Now, why is he wanting to deceive them, and why is he using this religion to do it? Well, look at the second thing. He's deceiving them to centralize his power. That's what he wants to do. He's centralizing his power. Look at verse 9. This calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are the 7 hills on which the woman sits. There are also 7 kings. 5 have fallen. One as the other has not yet come. But when he does come, he must remain for a little while. Some of your Bibles say an hour. The beast who once was and now is an 8th king. We'll look at that in a second. He belongs to the 7, is going to his destruction. The 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who've not yet received a kingdom, but who for 1 hour will receive authority as kings along with the beast. They have one purpose and will give their power and authority to the beast. Now notice what the beast is doing. What we see here is a simple explanation of the people the beast is using. And all of this is symbolic. But notice we see the 7 heads that are on there. Now understand what these are. We've already looked at this. These are the 7 world kingdoms that have opposed God. 5 preceded John. As John is looking back in history, 5 have preceded him. Now in John's present, there's one ruling, which is Rome. And the 7th one is what? The one that is coming, that's going to be led by the Antichrist. The 7 mountains are definitely a depiction of Rome. Rome sits on 7 hills. A lot of people have taken that to say, Brad, doesn't that mean that the false religion throughout the tribulation is going to be Catholicism? Doesn't that mean that the Antichrist is going to set up his throne in Rome? It does not mean that. The Roman Catholic Church didn't exist when this was written. The picture here is that in Rome there's a dictator, a worldwide dictator. And remember, Antichrist is going to set himself up and mimic every single kingdom that has opposed God. He's going to incorporate all of them into his leadership. But then it starts talking about this 8th king, the 7th and the 8th king. And it sounds confusing, but it's still the same reference to the Antichrist. Remember how he started. He was this hero of the people, the greatest politician. He's a uniter. He's a man of peace. Fakes his resurrection, comes out as the beast. He goes from being the 7th king, who is this hero of the people, to this 8th king, who is the beast there to destroy the people. We see him going from one of the 7 to taking over the world as its dictator. But then we see these 10 horns, which are the 10 kings that will come. And they will unite under one banner. And what are they going to do? Well, we see clearly what they're going to do. We see the people that he's going to use, but we're also going to see how the power is granted to him. He's used all this religion to unite everybody. And now they're going to turn power over to him. Look what it says. They have one purpose. Verse 13. Now understand what that word purpose means. The word purpose here actually means to share the exact same desire and the exact same goal. That means the world's going to be of absolute one mind. And what is it to do? It's to give power. Go back, guys, to that verse. It's to give power and authority to the beast. Now let me put this in perspective. Imagine if we go home today and the President of the United States gets on TV and says, guys, we've already voted. We're no longer going to be our own government, and we're pledging allegiance to some dictator in the world. Just pick some idiot. And we're going to pledge to him. Now, there would be civil war in the United States, obviously. But not then. All these nations are going to go before their people going, we're no longer going to be governing you. He is. He's in charge. And the entire world is going to be in the same thinking and go, okay, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's unite together. Let's join together to make this happen. Now, notice what all of this for. Notice why he deceived those upon the earth. Notice why he centralized power to do the last thing, to wage war against God. They're going to come together. They'll wage war against the Lamb, but the Lamb will triumph over them because he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And with him will be his called, chosen, and faithful followers. We're going to be looking at that in chapter 19. But notice that's going to be his church, his bride that is coming with him. Now notice what Satan is doing. He's got everybody together and he's leading one last rebellion. One last war, one last attempt to overthrow God. His passion is to destroy, to defy, to eliminate God completely, for Jesus Christ to be destroyed. We've seen that throughout history. What do you think the cross is about? What do we think Herod is about at the birth of Christ? It is Satan trying to destroy Jesus. But now he's got all this earth together, all these kings, all the inhabitants, and he's throwing them at God. Just hoping he can win. But at this last battle, he will meet his demise. The beast will use the harlot to accomplish his purposes. But then we see at the last of verse 3. Remember, we see the destruction of Babylon. That's what we're seeing here. We're seeing an overview of what's coming. But notice this last one we haven't seen yet. The beast will destroy the harlot. Don't miss it. There's going to be a point where the Antichrist is going to do away with this world religion. Then the angel said to me, the waters you saw where the prostitute sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and languages. That's all the people of the earth. The beast and the 10 horns, the 10 kings you saw will hate the prostitute. Now notice something. The prostitute is despised by the Antichrist. Why? Because he wants her followers. He will not allow anyone else to be worshiped. He will be worshiped alone. And any attention that's going to this false religion and not to him causes anger, and he's going to destroy that prostitute. That shows us they will bring her to ruin. They're going to destroy, to desolate her. How are they going to do that? They're going to take her followers. They're going to make sure everyone that's following that world religion is turned and they're now following the Antichrist. But then it says they'll eat her flesh and burn her with fire. She will be disgraced. They're going to take her wealth. You got to understand, false religion has one really key element. The people at the top are getting rich. Every time. Very few false religions, somebody isn't getting rich. They're getting rich. They're getting so rich. We saw how she was clothed. And Antichrist says, that's mine. And he takes it. And in the end, she will be destroyed. She will be destroyed. Now notice what's going to happen. God has put it into their hearts to accomplish his purpose. By agreeing to hand her over to the beast, their royal authority until God's words are fulfilled. The woman you saw is the great city that rules over the kings of the earth. The Babylon, the religion, is what is ruling, and it is coming down. Now we need to stop and say, why is that important to us today? I mean, Brad, we're looking into the future here. We're looking possibly years in the future. But I need to remind you of something, guys. Please listen to this. We cannot ignore the times. We cannot ignore prophecies. Why? The return of Christ is imminent. I cannot encourage that, teach that, preach that enough. The reality of Jesus Christ's return is true. He told us he did not know. He could not tell us. He knows. He will not tell us when he's returning. That means an event is taking place we're unaware of. He told us to be ready. That means it's imminent, meaning it is absolutely happening. We have to be prepared. And if we're not paying attention to the times that are around us, and we're not paying attention to the prophecies, all of these things can happen, and we let it slide by, and we see more and more and more people sucked into deceptive or false religion. Guys, we're living in an age that is surrounded by false religion, deception. We need to be aware so we can be interceding. See, the only person that can break this is the Holy Spirit. That's why God commands us to pray to the Lord of the harvest, to send workers into the harvest field because there aren't enough workers. To open hearts, to open minds, to soften them, to prepare encounters. The only person that can change this deception is the Holy Spirit. And it calls for us to be crying out in intercession. We are surrounded by people who are stepping into eternity, and they're living right now under the lies of false religion. I guarantee you may have a family member that's there. You may have a friend that's there. And the reality is this: we live every day without the imminent reality of their future. And we need to be in prayer for the imminent reality that's ahead of us. Guys, Christ can come at any second. There's nothing holding him back now. Nothing. We need to be interceding. We also need to be doing something else. We need to be preparing to share the gospel. The gospel never changes. What is the gospel? Man is born in sin, born separated from God. There's nothing we can do to get out of that sin. False religion says you can rise up on your own. Reject God's promises. You don't need God. You can do it yourself. You don't have to obey God. Set your own rules. Take a little bit of God, take a little bit of yourself. You don't rely on grace. You rely on legalism. It's up to you to rise up and to overcome your sin. Christianity said something completely different. You cannot overcome your sin. You need to be rescued. We use the word redeemed. We sang about it this morning. So Christ, knowing that we have a death penalty over our head, came and he died. Because he never sinned, he could die for us. So here's the truth of the gospel. Christ came, he lived just like we did, he went to the cross and he died. He went in the grave 3 days and he rose again. And in that resurrection, he's offering us salvation. He's offering us forgiveness. He's offering to pay for our sin. And he's offering us grace. Do you know what grace is? Grace comes and it says to God, not only am I guilty, but I can't fix this and only you can. And you say, God, this gift of salvation, I receive it. That's the gospel. It doesn't change, but our method has to. Our message never changes. We do not compromise the gospel in this church, but our method must change. What worked 25, 30, 40 years ago may not work today, but the message of the gospel is the power of God unto salvation to the Jew first and also to the Greek. It is an unchanging truth. How we deliver it means we are constantly before God saying, give me opportunity. Give me opportunity just to share the truth about you. It's to prepare us to intercede. It's to prepare us to share the gospel. It's to prepare us to instruct our families. Hey, it may not happen in my generation. It could. It's imminent. It may not be in my children's generation, but it may be in my grandchildren's. Do you understand? We must be passing these truths to our children's children because we are just a generation away from Christianity being lost. We need to prepare them for the imminent return of Christ. We need to show them their purpose, help them discover the beautiful story of grace. Let them be re-identified by grace. Let them define new purpose and new potential through grace. Let the gospel radically change them so the next generation and the next generation can have it. But it also helps us to know that we have comfort in the midst of all of this. Because as I look at this text, what do I see from beginning to end? God is in control. Because guys, I'm going to tell you something right now. If the last election cycle taught us anything, the world is quickly losing its ever-loving mind. Oh my word. You would have thought life and death was on the line in this last election. Here's what I want to tell you. Jesus does not need control of the House, and Jesus does not need control of the Senate to fulfill his plan. Jesus does not need your vote. Jesus doesn't want your vote. Jesus is in control, and everything that's happening is happening exactly according to his timetable. I have a Father who loves me, who has a goal, a purpose, identity for me, and guess what? I can look to him knowing one thing. He's got it. It doesn't matter who's in the White House. It doesn't matter about the economy. We love those things to be good. We all love them to be good, but they don't matter. Here's what I do know. God's plan is in play. And we're a key, vital part of it. You're a necessary part of that plan. But I don't have to sit back and worry. Matter of fact, I think Jesus said it this way. Hey, I want you to consider the lilies of the field. Look how they're dressed. One of the most beautiful flowers out there. But our Father knows you have clothes and he's providing it to you. Hey, think about the birds of the air. God feeds them. I've never seen a bird grocery store. I've seen a bird in a grocery store, but I've never seen a bird grocery store. I've never seen a bird restaurant, but every day God feeds them. Look at the grass of the plain, how beautiful, how gentle. You can watch the beauty of it blow, and yet God provides all of that. If I have a Father who knows the needs of His creation, how much more does He know my needs, and how much more does He love me because He meets my needs? I have a Father I can trust. False religion says, don't trust Him. False religion says, don't obey Him. False religion says what? Trust yourself. But I have a Father that denies every single one of those and says one thing, trust me. As your heads are bowed and your eyes are closed, we're doing one thing this morning, guys. One. We're interceding. We're taking a moment and we're praying first and foremost for yourself. Some of you came in this room worried and overwhelmed and just struggling, and it hit you this morning. God's got this. Through His grace, I can fall before Him saying, God, I don't have this. I don't know how to fix my marriage. I don't know how to overcome my sin. I don't know how to beat this event in my life. I don't know. But I know you do. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to seek you. And I'm going to let you guide me. And I'm going to obey you. You've got this. You've got a plan. You've got a plan already in place. And I don't have to even know what it is. I just have to follow. Right now, lay that down before the Lord. Lay that worry down. Lay that anxiety down. Doesn't mean you're not involved. Doesn't mean you're not being real about it. You're being very real about it. I can't handle this, God, and only you can. Give me the strength. Give me the wisdom. Take over. I don't have it. Put it at His feet. Christianity and grace allows you to be honest, real, transparent. Begin to pray for your children. God, I pray that their eyes will be open. You may have a child that's not a believer. Start praying for their salvation right now. Pray that their eyes will be open, their heart will be softened. Pray that God will send laborers into their harvest field. Hey, we don't care who leads them to Christ. We just want them to come. Whatever that may be, pray that God will do that. Begin to ask that. Pray that they will be followers of Him. Pray for the next generations. Pray for their spouses. Ask God to let the gospel and the grace redefine them completely. We'll be talking about that next year. Pray for the lost. For that friend, that family member, that neighbor, whoever it is. It may even be an enemy. We're not to have those, but they may be your enemy, not you theirs. But pray for them. Take them before the Lord right now. Ask for their salvation. Ask for opportunity. Now pray for yourself. Father, give me wisdom. As I enter your word, give me wisdom. Let me see where you're at work. Protect me from deception. Allow me to be the light you bought me to be. Let my life count for your kingdom. Father, right now we're just praying. That's all we're doing. Father, there's so much in this message. There's so much surround us. The problem is too big. Not one of us can solve it, and that's the point, God. We can't solve it. You've already solved it. Our job is to follow. Our job is to intercede. Our job is to be prepared to share the gospel, pray for opportunity. Our purpose, God, is to absolutely prepare those below us. And finally, Father, our job is to rest in you. So, Father, we do that today. We lay these things before you. We pray for our community, our country. God, we need you to move and do what only you can do. Father, thank you for letting us be part of this. Lord, I want to thank you for my salvation. How easily I could have been lost. how easily I could have not believed. But you chose me, you saved me, and Father, I thank you for never leaving me. My salvation has never been dependent upon my action. It's never been dependent upon anything I've done. It's solely been upon your actions and what you've accomplished, not me. Thank you for freeing me from performance and legalism. Now, Father, as we step in and sing the fall of Babylon, we're seeing the collapse of evil, but Father, in a week or two, in 2 weeks, we're going to see a celebration. We see ourselves in heaven. Matter of fact, we're told to rejoice and be glad. It actually means, God, to celebrate through dance, skipping, and singing. There's a moment we will be set free. Our tears will be wiped away. And we will experience life for the first time. God, thank you. Thank you for our future. It is guaranteed. Just as guaranteed as everything that's taking place, we can already live as if that's already happening because you promised it. See, Father, we live on your promises. Tomorrow's taken care of. We love you, Jesus. We thank you. And all of Eagle Heights said, amen.